We are one day away from the Avs and the Bolts, and we have injury update news as game one could end up being a banger. There's a few things to talk about. Let's talk about Brayden Point, his availability. Let's talk about Darcey Kuemper. Let's talk about Nazem Kadri, and then let's talk about that mile-high city advantage when you are playing in the elevation change of Denver. So let's go ahead and let's talk about it. First, starting with Brayden Point. Brayden Point is practicing with the Bolts in full right now. I am shocked when I saw him go down holding his hip, that surgically repaired hip. I was certain he was done, but he looks like he is moving with speed, and he will be available for the first game of this series. I say with a question mark, dog-held tilt, but it looks like he is moving quite well right now with the Bolts. If we head over here to Twitter, we can actually see images of Point practicing right now with the Bolts. He's in the blue jersey, just taking the little lap there, so he looks all right. He doesn't look like he's going too fast right now, but it's a slow drill. He takes the puck off, so he's been at full speed right now, and that is according to Chris Kren right now. He is saying so far Brayden Point has practiced at all the drills at the practice, and he's scoring at a 2-on-1 with Riley Nash, so that is very positive. If we take a look at his projected lineup, he said they are skating Palat, Stamkos, and Kuch, Hagel, Cirelli, and Killorn. They are not touching the first two lines. He ends up on line 3 with Colton, Paul. I like this lineup a lot. Nick Paul, Ross Colton, Brayden Point. I think this gives you 3 very dangerous lines to work with. Normally, I do not like spreading out my superstars, but Hagel, Cirelli, and Killorn have just been too good right now, so Brayden Point ends up moving into that third line area. I think this is going to be a major uplift for the Bolts. He is definitely their best two-way player on forward, in my humble opinion on this one. He could be a series game changer for the Bolts. Speaking of game changers, Bolts and Avs fans, you guys have been doing awesome. Why don't you go ahead, give us a quick thumbs up, subscribe down below. Both of those are free. Join our Discord if you haven't already. We got a ton of you, and we are growing like gangbusters. We are this close to 10,000 subs, baby, so help push us over the hill. Also another game changer, Darcey Kuemper will be available for the Colorado Avalanche. Pavel Francouz has done well enough, but you always want to go with your starter. You don't want to play your backup here, so I think it is going to be Kuemper starting game one. He says he's 100% healthy. He had a little bit of an eye injury there, but he says he can see the puck now and he is ready to go. That is a major uplift for the Colorado Avalanche. I would rather be going into this game with Darcey Kuemper than Francouz. I think he's a great goalie. I think anyone that plays in front of the Avs is going to be a great goalie. We already talked about the Philip Grubauer effect. He got a Vezina nomination last year, went over to Seattle, promptly fell into the tank, and that is the Avs effect. The team is so good, the team is so deep around him that having any goalie in net in front of that team is going to boost that goalie's performance. But I think Kemper's better than Gru. I think Kemper's better than Francouz. That is a major uplift for a Colorado Avalanche team that's dealing with injuries. They're also dealing with an injury to Nazem Kadri. He has a broken right thumb right now. It's been surgically repaired. Mikko Rantanen was caught talking about this, saying, hey, it's 2022. Doctors can do some amazing things. They can, but if you didn't know, he's a left-handed shot, and that means he is top hand dominant with his right hand. That is the thumb that is broken. For those of you that haven't played hockey, I'm a lefty. I have a left-handed stick right here in my hand. You actually use your top hand, which is your right hand, to do all the stick handling in. So it's an awkward position here, but it is not your bottom hand when you're stick handling. So if you haven't held one of these before, and many people on this channel haven't, you are not moving your left hand in order to stick handle. That is your dominant hand when it comes to pushing the puck on a shot. Your right hand does all the movements for your stick handles. As you can see right here, every little wrist movement I am able to do with my wrist allows me to control the puck, and it is very difficult to do it with just 4. I don't have the type of movement or control I would like, and even if I have a cast and this thumb is kept here at the same point in time, it feels very awkward and cumbersome to stick handle right now. You should be able to move the puck, and this right hand and this right thumb is a big deal. You need all of them in order to be effective at stick handling and moving your stick. So what does that mean for Kadri? That means apparently he has a chance to play, but how effective is a man going to be without that very important dominant top hand when it comes to moving the puck, stick handling, and doing what you need to do? Regardless of what happens, it was surgically repaired. It's tiny bones in this hand. You can't take another hit, so you're going to have some reinforcements on this hand. I really doubt he's going to be skating without a cast, but I'm not a doctor. If you're a doctor, down below, you let me know the advancements in medical science and if he can play. I'm a little bit skeptical right now. I'm not saying he can't get in the game. I'm just saying if he ends up getting in the game with a proper cast. I think he's going to be severely limited, and he is silky smooth. He's got great hands. He's got a great shot, but this is definitely going to affect his performance going forward. So there we have it. We have Kadri, who's a maybe, and he's going to play with a cast if he ends up playing. That's my guess. We have Kuemper, who's 100%, and we have Brayden Point with a torn hip, apparently, that never was torn, that looks like he's skating and ready to go. So we may get these teams at or close to their best going in. I know there's still no Girard. Now, another thing that we want to talk about is the altitude advantage going into Denver. A lot of people asked this question on our last preview video between the Bolts and Denver. They said, hey, why didn't you go ahead and mention Colorado's advantage in the thin air? And you know what? It is an advantage. I have Googled this many times. Again, I'm not a breathologist, but I actually had one comment on our videos and fully confirmed this. His name is Andrew, and he picked up on my funny term when I used the term breathologist down here, and he says, hey, breathologist here. And then he clarifies it down below that he's actually an anesthesia, but he says higher altitude equals lower atmospheric pressure or thinner air. Less O2 gets into the lungs per breath, so it's detrimental for visiting athletes. See Tom Brady's record at the Mile High. However, those who live and train there eventually develop hypoxia. Look, guys, I can barely say a player's last name. Good one with this one. Low O2, though, is what it means, and the body steps in to create more red blood cells. More red blood cells equal more hemoglobin equals more storage of oxygen, so high-altitude athletes are essentially blood doping naturally. A quick little search into Google confirms what he is saying, and that is there is an advantage. So again, not a doctor going off the crowdsourcing what Google says, so it definitely is going to be important, but I was actually able to find some data on these charts that I want to share with you. What you're essentially seeing here is a graph of estimated home advantage by team. So if we go ahead and we zoom in here, what you can actually end up seeing is that the MLB, NBA, NFL, and NHL are categorized here. When you take a look at it, it's the NBA that actually ends up getting the biggest advantage. So the Denver Nuggets of the NBA have the biggest home field advantage in all of pro sports. When we come down here to hockey, which is in blue, you can see the home ice advantage is not nearly as big in hockey as it is in football or basketballs. Hockey, we actually notice that the Colorado Avalanche only have the 5th greatest home ice advantage when it comes to these series. So they are actually behind the Calgary Flames, the Nashville Predators, the Anaheim Ducks, the Blue Jackets, the Wild, and the Kings. So yes, home ice advantage will matter, but Tampa is only going to have to take one game on the road. They've been absolute juggernauts at home. So if Tampa wants to close out this cup, they're going to continue to have to find a way to do it on the road. They're going to have to find a way to do it in low oxygen. And they have been there now for over 48 hours, training in it, getting used to it. A lot of players have actually come up and said it makes you feel sick. Patrick Sharp was even quoted as saying when he played there, it feels like you're hungover. You can feel it immediately impact your lungs. You know after the second or the third shift, something is different. He says you try to ignore it and play through it. You know you're okay, but it is really tough to ignore something when you are always being reminded of it. So by the third period, they end up gassed. Tampa Bay likes to play in close games, and as they play in close games against Colorado, I am wary and aware. I am very aware of the fact that the closer these games stay together, the more the Colorado Avalanche may bust this game open in the third period with their juggernaut scoring. So you let me know what you guys think. Hey, if you haven't seen it already, why don't you go ahead and check out our Bolts Avs preview right now? Or why don't you go ahead and check out our Bruce Cassidy hiring with the Vegas Golden Knights?